Hey guys, it's Miss Bornhorst again, and we are back with week 2 of our online learning. We're continuing our reading lesson from last week. Before we did that, I just want to say that I hope that you all have had a wonderful week and a great weekend. And it was so much fun reading your comments from last week. If you forgot to make those comments last week, make sure at the end of this lesson you go ahead and scroll up on the video and add your comment in at the bottom for your exit ticket. That is how I and the other third grade teachers will be assessing your learning. So don't forget to do that. Before we get started on today's lesson, I wanted to make sure that we remember our norms, our online lesson norms. Just like we have in class, we also have these as we're learning at home online. And so the first norm that we have for you is that you stay focused, right? So remember, I talked about last week how you can get distracted by a lot of things that are going on in your house. Your baby sister or your baby brother or your mom or your dad, they could be doing something in the room around you. It might be best if you move and you go to a room by yourself so that you can stay focused. We want you to make sure that you watch and that you listen closely to help you learn as much as possible because that's why we're here. So first things first, focus. The second thing is to rewind, right? So if you're feeling confused or you need something repeated, that's the beauty of this online learning is that you can go back and you can listen to it again as many times as you need. And as Ms. Bornhorst mentioned last week, remember the best part is that I don't have to repeat myself over and over and over again because you know how much I love to do that, right? So rewind it. If you're confused, rewind it. Or if you just want to hear my beautiful voice, it's all on you. You can rewind it and you can listen to it as many times as you want. So step 3 is that you record your learning on paper. So in just a minute, I'm going to show you how to get your paper set up for today's learning. I got some screenshots of some student work last week, and I was super impressed with the work that you guys did. So I'm looking forward to more great responses this week. And then step 4 is that you reflect on your learning in the comment section. So I just talked about how I was able to see some of those comments and respond back to those comments from some students last week. I'm looking forward to even more responses with even more details and juicier sentences and more evidence. And I'll go over that again at the end of this lesson. So those are our norms. Make sure that you are focused, that you rewind if you need it, that you record your work, and that you reflect at the end of this video. So just a few reminders before we get started. When you see these symbols, they mean certain things, and I will give you a clue as to what those are. I'll tell you in the video as well. But this first symbol that you see here looks like a pause button, and imagine that. It means pause the video. Okay, so if you see this video, that means you're going to need to pause and probably do something that I tell you where that is on the screen. The next little image here is a pencil. If you see that pencil, that means that you need to write something, and that writing will be on the paper that we're going to get set up here in just a moment. And then this little brain down here means to stop and think. I mean, you should always be using that brain of yours, but there's going to be certain times where I'm going to pause and let you guys think before I move on because it's your learning. That's why we're here, right? And so I want to give you that space and that time to think when you need it. And then finally, this comment section right here, you'll see this on at the very end of our lesson today, and that's going to be a reminder that you need to add your comments to the comment section underneath the video on YouTube. So just a reminder, those symbols are there. You will see them, but I will give you reminders throughout the lesson as well. All right, so let's get us set up for today. Here's the materials that you're going to need. You're going to need a pencil, some paper, and the text. Now, if you don't have the district packet that they were passing out or that you could go pick up, and if you still don't have it, you can still go pick one up. They have them printed out now for the rest of the year. All of the text that I will be using will be included in that packet. Okay, and so if you have it, great. We're going to be looking at a passage called Termites today. And if you do not have it, that's okay because I have embedded the text into this lesson, and so you can go back and you can rewind it and you can listen to it and follow along with me in the YouTube video. So no worries if you don't have it. All right, so now that you know what materials you need, let's take a look at how we're going to set up our paper today. So you'll see at the top again, I have a spot for our first and our last name, a section for your do now. This asking and answering questions table is similar to last week. The difference is that this question has changed in this first column, and then there are also 3 rows now. So you make sure that you make those adjustments here. And then at the top, your headings are question, answer, and key details. So make sure you add those up there. And then at the bottom, or if you ran out of space, if your chart's too big, that's okay. Just flip your paper over and you can do your exit ticket on the back. So right now I'm gonna want you to pause this video and I want you to complete your note catcher so that you are ready for today. Once you are finished drawing your note catcher, unpause the video and we will move on. All right, so now that you have your note catcher set up, we're going to go ahead and get started with our do now, just as we do when we are in class. And so your do now question says, see a little brain guy? You're going to have to think here. It says, think back to last week's lesson. Why is it important to ask and answer questions? So last week we read some narratives and you were responsible for coming up with some questions and answering those questions. Why did we say that that was an important strategy or an important thing that readers, strong readers, do as they read? I want you to pause this video and record your response on your paper. All right, so now that you have had time to reflect and complete your do now, I'm kind of curious what you guys thought. It says, why is it important to ask and answer questions? Well, if you remember back to last week, we discussed how it's important that we do that because when we ask questions and we're able to answer them, that helps us make sure that we fully understand what we read. If we ask a question and we don't know the answer, from the text, that means that we probably didn't understand it and we need to go back or we need to use some strategies to help us understand what we're reading, right? So the same thing applies today. We're going to continue doing that to make sure that we understand the text that we are reading today. So let's take a look at our learning objective. It says, oh, repeat after me. I know it sounds silly. Just do it, okay? It says, I can ask questions about what I read and use details from the text. From where? From the text to support my answers, right? So what do you notice about these learning targets? What are we going to do today? Well, you should notice the two things that we're going to do, and this is the same learning target as last week. We're going to continue to ask questions, and as we answer them, we're going to use details from the text to answer our questions, right? Now, the difference today is that instead of doing that with a narrative or a story, we're going to use an informational text. So let's take a look at what an informational text is and how we're going to use it. So you'll take a look here. It says, last week we read and asked questions about narratives. We thought about the character, setting, and the events when creating questions to answer. Now today we're going to be using informational text. And if you'll remember, informational texts are texts that are meant to inform people about a topic, right? So there won't necessarily be characters or settings or an event, right? So today, instead of using the character, setting, and events, I want you to think, what can we focus on when reading informational text? So what part of an informational text can we focus on to help us ask questions, to help us answer these questions? Because we can't focus on the character, the setting, and events. So what do you think that we could possibly focus on today to help us come up with those questions? So I'll give you a few seconds. I want you to think about that. Okay, well, let's take a look and see what we can focus on because we know we can't focus on the character, the setting, or the events. Follow along with me as we read, and I want you to see what questions can we focus on? What kind of questions can we create from informational text? It says, we ask questions to get information or to understand something. Often, questions begin with words such as who, what, when, where, why, and how. As you read, ask yourself questions about the text. Then look for key details in the text to answer your questions. Asking and answering questions will help you understand the topic of the text. So my question for you is, what question stems can we use to help us create questions about informational text? So instead of focusing on the character, the events, and the setting, what did it say in this passage that we're going to focus on as we create these questions? Well, if you look back in the text, it says we're going to focus on questions that begin with who, what, when, where, why, and how. So today we're going to we're going to read a text and we're going to see if we can create questions using those sentence stems. Cool. So here they are. We got who, say it with me, who, what, when, where, why, and how. Did you move your head with me just like I did? You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of those things on Instagram where you have to knock your heads to the side. I don't know what it is. I'm not technologically savvy like you kids. But anyways, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on who, what, when, where, why, and how as we read this informational text. Cool beans? Cool beans. I know you said it. All right. So we're going to get started though. Before we look at a text, we're going to do this with a picture just to get us warmed up, right? So the picture here, you can take a look at it. It has a title above it. The question says, what questions can we ask ourselves based on this picture? And we have a hint. Remember, these are the sentence stems we're using. Who, what, where, when, why. Oops, I'm sorry. It should say why and how, right? So looking at this picture, I want you to see if you can come up with two questions using these sentence stems from this picture right here. It says prairie dog homes. Come up with two questions. All right, you got your two questions? Well, I came up with three questions and I want to see, were your questions similar to mine? If not, totally cool. I just wanted you to come up with questions on your own about this picture. Here are the questions that I came up with using these question stems, right? So my first one I focused on what. So my first question says, what are most of the animals in the picture called? Okay, what are they called? Number two, where do these animals live? Again, I focus with that where word. Where do these animals live? Three, why do the animals live underground? So I noticed in the picture that they're underground. I want to know why. Okay, so again, what are most of the animals in the picture called? Where do these animals live? And why do these animals live underground? Okay, so when we do this, we're going to start with our question and we're going to see if we can answer it based on the image, right? So my first question says, what are most of the animals in the picture called? Well, when I take a look at the picture, the animals in here aren't labeled, right? However, the title of the picture says Prairie Dog Homes. So I'm guessing that the most of the animals in this picture are prairie dogs, right? So what I would do on my chart is I would answer the question and say most of the animals in the picture are prairie dogs, right? Then this key detail section, that's where I explain where I got my answer. That's my evidence from the picture, right? Now, when we do it, we're going to get the evidence from the text. However, we're using a picture right now. So my detail, my evidence, my proof is that the title of the picture is Prairie Dog Homes. That's what made me get the answer. Most of the animals live or in the picture are prairie dogs, right? So again, when we look at those key details, that's the information in the picture or in the text, okay? So my second question now says, where do these animals live? Okay, well, I'm going to go back to the picture, okay? And when I look at the picture, now I don't specifically know like what part of the country these prairie dogs are in, or more specifically like the area surrounding where they are. However, from the picture, I can infer that, or I can see that these prairie dogs live underground, right? So here's the ground. Where are they? They're living underground, okay? And so if I go back to my chart, what I'm going to do in that answer section is I'm going to write what I see from the picture. The prairie dogs live in holes in the ground, okay? So again, where did I get that information? From the picture. So then as I go for my key details, that's my proof, that's my evidence, right? Where am I getting it? From the picture or from the text, right? Well, when I went back and I looked at the picture, I see tunnels from the surface leading down into holes in the ground, and I see nests and an adult with its babies. So because I see those things, I can figure out or I can infer that prairie dogs live in holes in the ground. All right. So moving on to the next one. Question 3 says, why do these animals live underground? Well, where am I going to go to answer this question? Yes, from in the picture or the text, right? So if I go here, I want to know, why do those prairie dogs live underground? Well, when I look at this picture, there's no words. There's nothing that says prairie dogs live underground because blah, 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 right? It's not there. But what I do notice is I see this like wolf up here, right? And he looks to be searching for those prairie dogs. And so I'm wondering if maybe those prairie dogs live underground because maybe it's safer from them. It protects them from their predators, right? That wolf can't get into the holes that the prairie dogs live in underground. And so maybe that serves as some sort of protection, right? And so what I'm going to do then in that answer box is I'm going to put I think, because do I know for sure? No, nowhere does it say on the picture that that's the answer, that that's why they live there, but I can infer this, right? So I think they live underground to protect themselves. Okay, now again, the details, the reason is your evidence. It's why you think that. Why do you think, or why does Miss Bornhorst think they live underground to protect themselves? Well, again, as I was saying, I see an animal like a wolf or a coyote looking down one tunnel, and it looks like an animal that might eat the prairie dog, right? So if something's trying to eat this prairie dog, I'm pretty sure that those prairie dogs are going to want to be protected, and that's probably why they're going underground. And so again, this evidence here comes from what I actually see in the picture. Where your evidence is going to come from is what you actually read in the text, right? So you're going to have specific details from the text. Can I say it again? From the text. You say it. From the text. Okay? And so before we move on to a text, I want you to think, how did we use the illustration to help us answer the questions? Right? I didn't just come up with an answer and stop there. How did the illustration help us? Okay, as you were thinking, I hope that you realized that the illustration is what was where we were getting our answers from. The illustration is what made me think about all of those things, right? I saw the underground tunnels. I saw the title. I saw the wolf, and that made me think that that they were going underground to protect themselves, right? I used the illustration to support my responses. Just as you use that illustration to support your responses, we're about to use a text to support our responses to some questions. Before we do that, I think it's time for a brain break. So I want you to stand up. I want you to do 10 jumping jacks, 10 squats, and 10 lunges, and then I'll see you here just in a second. So pause the video, get a little exercise in. You know Miss Bornhorst loves to exercise and she wants to get you active. So stand up, do those things. If you want to, do them twice, do them 3 times. I don't care. When you're ready, come back, hit play, and I'll be here. All right. You got some energy out. You got that blood flowing. You ready to go? Okay. So before we get started with our text, I want you to take a look at this first question here. It says, based on the title and the illustration, what do you think this text will be about? So now is when I want you to do some predicting, right? So if you take a look, the title of this text is Termite Mounds, and I want you to notice the colors. I want you to notice the font, okay? Termite Mounds, and then I want you to notice down here at the bottom there is an illustration. I want you to look at those 2 things, and I want you to think, based on the title and the illustration, what do you think this text will be about? Take a moment to think now. Okay, if you have someone around you, a brother, a sister, a mom, a dad, I want you to share what you think this will be about and why. So you might say, I predict this text is about blah, 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 because blah, blah, blah. Go. If you don't have someone, say it to yourself. All right. So I don't want to share what I think that it's going to be about because I want to see if your predictions are correct, okay? So now that you made some predictions, I want us to take a look first at some vocabulary. So it's very important that you understand first what a termite is. Now, the text will probably go, hint, hint, into some more detail about termites, but I wanted you guys, since there's no picture of one, I wanted you to see what this termite looks like, right? So if you look over here, here's our vocabulary. The word is termite. Say termite, termite. Okay, and then we have a little picture of a termite here. If you ask me, pretty darn gross, but I don't know. Maybe you like maybe you like them, maybe I don't know. It's up to you. If you do, keep them away from me, okay? Now that you know what a termite looks like, we're going to read this text 3 times, okay? The first read, we always just read to enjoy. The second read, you're going to have to come up with some questions that you have using those who, what, when, where, why, and how, okay? And then the third read, you're going to read and you're going to try to answer those questions that you came up with. Cool beans? All right, let's get started. So the first one, all I want you to do is sit back, relax, and enjoy. It says, termites are insects that live together in nests. Some termites are called mound builders. They build their nests from mounds of clay. Some of these mounds are more like towers. They stand almost 35 feet tall. Mound builders are found in Africa and Australia. They are also in parts of South America. Other animals in these areas use termite mounds too. Some wait until the termites move away. Others ignore the termites and use the mound anyway. Termite mounds are usually the highest place around. Cheetahs often use the mound as a lookout point. They climb to the top of the mound. There they keep an eye out for their next meal. Sometimes the termites move on to a new nest. That's good news for many of the other animals. These animals know how to put an empty termite mound to good use. Some animals make the empty nest their new home. Mongooses are small animals in Africa. They make a hole in the mound to get inside. The termite mound keeps them safe from other animals. Snakes also use an empty termite mound as a home. Termite mounds also come in handy for large animals. Elephants and rhinos use them as scratching posts. Bug bites and dry mud can make any creature itchy. These large animals stand near a mound and rub against them. Sometimes they can even stand over a mound to scratch their bellies. Right, so that was our first read. Now on the second read, what you're going to do is you're going to come up with 2 more questions. So as you can see here, Miss Bornhorst has already written one of the questions that you're going to have to answer. It says, why are termites called mound builders? Right, so again, I want you to think. Here are the question stems that you can use. We can use who, right? What? My goodness. When, where, and why. Okay, so what I want you to do as I read the second time is I want you to think about 2 more questions that you can add to our chart here. So we already have one. It says, why are termites called mound builders? I want you to try to use a different sentence. So try not to use why, right? Let's change that to how. Okay, so come up with 2 more questions as we read it again. Okay, so again, this text is called Termite Mounds. It is by Madeline Clark. It says, termites are insects that live together in nests. Some termites are called mound builders. They build their nests from mounds of clay. Some of these mounds are more like towers. They stand almost 35 feet tall. Mound builders are found in Africa and Australia. They are also in parts of South America. Other animals in these areas use termite mounds too. Some wait until the termites move away. Others ignore the termites and use the mound anyway. Termite mounds are usually the highest place around. Cheetahs often use the mound as a lookout point. They climb to the top of the mound. There they keep an eye out for their next meal. Sometimes the termites move on to a new nest. That's good news for many of the animals. These animals know how to put an empty termite mound to good use. Some animals make the empty nest their new home. Mongooses are small animals in Africa. They make a hole in the mound to get inside. The termite mound keeps them safe from other animals. Snakes also use an empty termite mound as a home. Termite mounds also come in handy for large animals. Elephants and rhinos use them as scratching posts. Bug bites and dry mud can make any creature itchy. These large animals stand near a mound and rub against them. Sometimes they even stand over a mound to scratch their bellies. Right? So now what I would like for you to do, you have come up with 2 questions, right? I want you to think of those 2 questions now. Once you have those 2 questions, what you're going to do is you're going to pause this video and you are going to write your 2 questions on your note catcher. So please do that now. All right, so now that you have your new 2 questions here and you have this question that Miss Bornhorst created, your job is going to be now to read it for a 3rd time, okay, and answer your questions and use your details from the text to give me evidence or prove your answers, right? So what I'm going to do is Miss Bornhorst is going to read it one more time. You're trying to find the answers to your questions. All right, 3rd read says, Termite Mounds by Madeline Clark. Termites are insects that live together in nests. Some termites are called mound builders. They build their nests from mounds of clay. Some of these mounds are more like towers. They stand almost 35 feet tall. Mound builders are found in Africa and Australia. They are also in parts of South America. Other animals in these areas use termite mounds too. Some wait until the termites move away. Others ignore the termites and use the mound anyway. Termite mounds are usually the highest place around. Cheetahs often use the mound as a lookout point. They climb to the top of the mound. There they keep an eye out for their next meal. Sometimes the termites move on to a new nest. That's good news for many of the other animals. These animals know how to put an empty termite mound to good use. Some animals make the empty nest their new home. Mongooses are small animals in Africa. They make a hole in the mound to get inside. The termite mound keeps them safe from the other animals. Snakes also use an empty termite mound as a home. Termite mounds also come in handy for large animals. Elephants and rhinos use them as scratching posts. Bug bites and dry mud can make any creature itchy. These large animals stand near a mound and rub against them. Sometimes they even stand over a mound to scratch their bellies. Okay, now that you have listened to this 3 times, what you're going to do is I'd like for you to pause the video and complete the chart based on your reading. Okay, so you have 3 questions, you need 3 answers, and you need specific evidence from the text to prove your answers. Again, specific evidence from the text to prove your answers. So at this time, please pause the video, complete your chart. When you're finished, hit play and we'll continue on with the lesson. All right, now that you have completed your lesson, what I would like for you to do, your chart, what I would like for you to do is snap a picture and send it to your homeroom teacher. Oops, teacher. Send it to your homeroom teacher, right? So if you're in my class, send it on over to me. If you are in one of the other 3rd grade teachers, make sure you send it to that teacher so that they can see your work. All right. Again, I loved getting to see those last week, and you guys did such a great job, so I can't wait to see your work from this week. Right? Once you've done that, I would like for you to see if you can answer these questions. We're going to do a quick check, right? So Ms. Bornhorst came up with some more questions, and what I would like for you to do as I'm doing this is use some sign language to answer them before we check our answers, okay? So if you're in my class, you know that we use sign language to represent A, B, and C as our answers. So if you need a refresher, here is A, B, C, or D. Now, again, you're at home and you're alone, so if you just want to shout it, you can. But if you also just want to practice with your sign language, go ahead and do that when I say show me, right? So for A, oh, also, if you need to, pause the video before you listen to the answer, go back to the text, find it, come back, hit play, and you'll see if you're correct, right? So part A says, why do cheetahs climb up termite mounds? A, they can see farther to find animals to hunt. B, they can sleep safely on top of termite mounds. C, they use termite mounds as scratching posts. D, they can call to each other more easily. Again, thinking if you need to, go back and check. I want you to show me using sign language or shout it when I say shout it. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Show me or shout it. All right, let's see if you're correct. If you picked A, give yourselves 2 claps and a basketball. Whoop, there it is. Right? If you didn't get it, I'd like for you to go back in the text and see if you can find that answer. Now, this question has a part B. So again, usually part B's, remember, are proving or supporting our answer. So if we look at the question for part B, it says, which sentence from the passage best supports the answer you chose for part A? So remember, we said that they can see farther to find animals to hunt. Well, let's prove it, right? So A says, other animals in these areas use termite mounds too. Again, thinking, does that prove how that helps them see farther, right? B says there they can keep an eye out for their next meal. C, some animals make the empty nest their new home. D, others ignore termites and use the mound anyway. Again, we're trying to prove that they can see farther to find animals to hunt. So take a look at those options again. I'll give you a few seconds to think. Okay, either show me or shout it in 3, 2, 1, go. Let's see what you came up with. If you chose B, you are correct. Give yourself 2 claps and some fire. Whoop, we on fire. All right, we've got one more question to see if you understood your reading today. Question 2 says, which question can be answered by reading paragraph 5? Okay, now you know that if it says paragraph or it gives a specific paragraph, that means that we need to go back and we need to read paragraph 5, right? So again, it's asking us which question can be answered. So let's look at paragraph 5 again. Paragraph 5 is this one with the 5 next to it. Imagine that. It says, some animals make the empty nest their home. Mongooses are small animals in Africa. They make a hole in the mound to get inside. The termite mound keeps them safe from other animals. Snakes also use the empty termite mound as a home. So when I think about this paragraph, if I'm going to kind of summarize it or give a gist statement for this paragraph, to me it's mostly talking about how some animals use the mounds for their homes, right? It kind of talked about a couple of different ones, the mongoose and snakes, right? So let's see, which question could we answer from this paragraph? Well, it says, which question can be answered by reading paragraph 5? A, how tall is a termite mound? So did it talk about the height of the termite mound? B, why do mongooses move into termite mounds? C, what large animals use termite mounds? And D, what animals are mound builders? So again, thinking about paragraph 5, if you need to, go back and listen to it again. What question would you be able to answer? Thinking to yourself now. All right, let's see if your thinking was correct. It says B, why do mongooses move into termite mounds? Again, remember as I gave that gist or that summary statement, we listened to how it talked about those mongooses and the snakes using those for their homes. And so one of these questions we could say, why do mongooses move into termite mounds? Well, why do they use them? For their homes, right? Good. All right. So now it is time for your exit ticket. So if you take a look at our exit ticket question here. Now this is the question that you will also be responding to in the comment section of the video. Right? Your question says, why are termite mounds so important to so many animals? Include details from the passage in your response. Be sure to write complete sentences. Again, why are termite mounds so important to so many animals? Include details from the passage in your response. Be sure to write complete sentences. So if you forgot If you're not sure why these termite mounds are important to other animals, go back, listen to it again. Make sure that you include evidence to support your response. So that evidence needs to be from the text, specific examples. Okay, so I want you to pause now and write this on your paper. Okay, now that you have written your comment or your exit ticket on your paper, it is now time to complete this video and put your answer in the comment section below. Right, so on your exit ticket or in your comment section, remember that you need these three things. You need your name, complete sentences to answer the question, and then finally evidence to support your response. I'm looking for those three things for a quality and solid response. Right? So as soon as this video ends, get your comment in and I'll take a look at it and respond to you as soon as I can, as soon as I see it. As for now, thanks for learning with me. It was great to see you guys again, and I look forward to some more great lessons and some more great responses from you. I hope that you all have a wonderful week. If you have any questions or need help with anything, please give me a call, send me a text message, or shoot me an email, and I will be sure to help you out. That's what I'm here for. So I love y'all. I hope that you're staying safe, and I hope that you're staying healthy, and I can't wait to talk with you again.